it actually feels like home. It feels like I never left. But at the same time, I have this, I think, even deeper gratitude. It's funny, that win with Bobby has so much stuff attached to it.
How did you end up being partnered with Brian?
Well, we were dating for a year already. They are the people that are cheering because Jenna finally got a one that was just so absolutely beautiful for her.
For the 500th episode, shocked everybody. How does that all come together?
Honestly, it was a really beautiful moment for me and super overwhelming. So the way it came together is Dina Katz gave me a call and she's like, hey, actually the first thing she did was send out a mass text to a bunch of us. And it was originally going to be a whole world of pros that had used to been on the show that were going to be a surprise in this number. But of course, budgets get moved around. When you're getting near the end of a show and people have bigger and bigger freestyles or whatever is going on, that money has to get moved to certain places. So I don't know the ins and the details of why, but it ended up being that there was only one spot that they needed to fill because they needed an extra girl. And so Dina called me and asked if that would be me. And I cried actually when she asked me, because it'd been 3 years since I was on that dance floor, and that dance floor, I grew up on it. You know, it's home to me. And so then I was in rehearsal with everyone back at the studios of Dancing with the Stars and hanging with Pasha and Daniela, who are incredible, by the way, in the way they put that piece together. They did such a beautiful job. And then camera blocking, which I felt myself getting... Dude, I got emotional at the end of that first round of camera blocking, just being back on that floor and with everyone and dancing with Gleb. And
do you slip back right into that routine of how it was all those years?
Yeah, you know, I was walking down the aisles and the aisle like backstage, and someone asked me, does it feel different? And I was like, no, it actually feels like home. It feels like I never left. But at the same time, I have this, I think, even deeper gratitude and perspective in being here because I've been away from it for so long. Right. You know, sometimes when you're in one place for a long time, you can forget how magical it is. And then you take some time and see it from a different viewpoint and come back into it. And it was, I think magical is the word that I would use. And in the live show, I had to like take a beat. The audience is cheering because also my last show season that I did, we didn't have a live audience.
Because of COVID.
So I hadn't been a part of a live audience show on Dancing with the Stars since I won it with Bobby Bones. And so for me, I heard the audience start to cheer and the opening numbers going, and it was just that emotion and energy was building up. And I was like, I'm about to have tears streaming down my face on my entrance if I don't get it together. So I had to slightly disassociate and like slip into fierce mode and just going to come out and dance. Otherwise, I would have been a hot mess.
Is that what you used to do when you were on it?
Like disassociate?
Yeah, and like just really lock in?
Yeah, I think in some ways you have to, especially when you're with your partner. You can't get caught up because there's so much energy in the room, and energy is transferable, right? You've got your partner who's feeling nervous energy. You've got the audience who's cheering and screaming. You've got whatever happened in the dance before, and you don't want to take that with you. You want this moment with your partner to be fresh and new and just about you guys and not what's in the room. So generally, I wouldn't say I disassociate, like I just shut everything off. I would just switch in with my partner, and some people needed a prayer, some people needed a joke, some people needed like a strong football pep talk like a coach, but I would give them what they needed and sort of not look at the package, not look at the audience, and just be in our little bubble so we could do what we had been doing in rehearsals.
Right. Have you ever done a one-on-one with Gleb before?
Dance with Gleb?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Gleb and I danced with each other a bunch of times on tour. We've done some great pieces. We had we did a blindfold sort of waltzy type thing to a song from 50 Shades of Grey. Gleb likes the sexy numbers.
Yes,
Gleb loves him a sexy
yes,
number. And I will absolutely partake in a sexy number. I love them. So that's generally the vibe that Gleb and I would go for when we've danced with each other.
Yeah.
I think our very first piece we did years ago, I wasn't even a real redhead at the time. Christina Grimmie sung the song when she was really popular at the time, I'll Take Care of You. It was a cover of a Rihanna song. Jason Gilkison choreographed it, and it was beautiful. And I loved dancing with Gleb since then.
Yeah.
He's a great dancer.
He's the best. What'd you think of this season?
Oh my God, it was amazing. There's so many feels about this season. The cast was incredible. Dina crushed it on the casting. But also this like everyone else has found TikTok now. Sorry, everyone else has found Dancing with the Stars. TikTok found Dancing with the Stars. There's people, how it took so long, I don't know, because dance has always been so popular on TikTok.
It's literally the dance app.
The dance app. And yet now finally something like the code got cracked. I think it has a hell of a lot to do with Ezra and Riley and how great they are with social media and TikTok, teaching us older cats about it. And, you know, and now everyone's doing it. And so you're seeing people copy Joey and Jenna's combination from the show and or lifts and tricks that people are trying, and it's just it is what it was meant to be. And I'm so excited that it's had this new surge of popularity and attention, because that show is amazing and it's one of the few very like feel good wholesome shows left on television, right, that you can watch with your 2-year-old and your 82-year-old. Like everyone can watch the show and love it. And so I love that it's now had so much more popularity because that keeps us on air.
Yeah. Being such a foundation of the show, to see it really blow up this season, does that make you feel any kind of certain way to see that it's getting, all your friends are getting like the respect and the understanding of how much work really goes into it?
I think pride. It would be the word that I can, and excited for those that are on it, you know, really excited to see this younger generation of pros coming forward, really exciting to see those that are there and have been there for a while getting that recognition, and having their fan bases grow because of their talent that they're putting out there. They work so hard. The pros on the show work so incredible. Ooh, I just ate your microphone. The pros on the show work so incredibly hard at what they do. So to see them have this oh my God moment of like thousands of people copying their moves on social media, that's like being an artist and having a concert tour and putting the mic out and everyone's singing your song. Like that's what that feels like for you. And I think that is just so special, and I'm really excited for the people, for the pros on the show that get that, and really proud of the show for getting to that point.
Would you think of the 5-person finale? Were you shocked when they announced that no one was getting eliminated that semifinals?
Yeah, it's not the first time they've done it though.
Right.
They've done it. They love to shock people, you know, and keep you on the edge of your seat. I actually didn't see it coming. I really thought they were going to eliminate someone. So when they said no one was going to be eliminated, I loved it because I loved all 5 of those couples and I really wanted to see what they'd produced. And let me tell you, being a competitor in that moment, the relief that you feel, because by that point you've choreographed your freestyle, you're attached to it completely. You want to finish that journey for your celebrity. You want them to have their final moment of everything. And honestly, the semi-final elimination is the worst because you are so close but so far,
and then you're like the one out of those groups that just it's done. You've even done the work for the finale episode, but you never ever get to show that work. That's just gone. That's just thrown away now. So the fact that they all got to be at that point and have that preparation done and step into a freestyle in that finale episode and get that recognition is beautiful. Right. When you got to the end with Bobby Bones, you got to do the finale.
Dude, yes, we did. Every week, by the way, that we got through was a shock. And let me be real honest here and say how everyone, like I previously said, has prepped. I had no prep. There was no prep for a freestyle. I didn't think that we were going to be in the finale. Like each week, I didn't think we were going to make it through. And so I was not one of those couples that was just really hoping to do the freestyle that I'd planned, because I had no plans. There were 0 plans.
To get there and like to actually do that, and then you take home the trophy, what does that feel like, that all of your hard work with this person that felt so vulnerable and trusted you, you got to show them the way and bring it home for them?
It's funny, that win with Bobby has so much stuff attached to it. There were many other times I could have won the show and people, I think, would have cheered for it and been like, this is the best win. We love this for her. People had wanted me to win for so long. But that win with Bobby, it riled a lot of feathers because he really wasn't the greatest dancer in the competition. Now, okay, there have been dancers that should have won and eliminated early. That's not new to Dancing with the Stars. But for whatever reason, this season, it really riled people's feathers. And it's hard. I won. In the moment, it was incredibly exciting because I had done that work. I did my absolute best to get him there. I gave him everything I had. Sure, I used a lot of smoke and mirrors, but like that's the gig too. I taught him as best I could. We were a great team. I did all the work that everyone else had done. And so in the moment, that win felt validated and it felt really beautiful and I was excited. And then for 2 weeks after it, I cried because of the hate that I got online. Oh, it makes me emotional thinking about it now. And for a long time after that, I wished that I didn't win because of the hate that I was getting and because people were saying that we ruined the show. People that we have nothing to do with who wins. It's
How's
who
it on
votes.
you?
That was really hard for me because I love the show so much and I had wanted to win for such a long time. And you have this vision of what it's going to feel like, right? This people run onto the floor, they hoist you on the shoulders, like all these sorts of things. But I didn't get any of that because I think the whole room was kind of just like, what do you mean? And to be fair, the other 3 couples that were in the final, each of them deserved to win. Each of them could have rightfully won. But so did Bobby in a sense of he did the hard work, he pushed himself constantly, and people voted for him. The only thing that I think threw it off is we unfortunately got 10s for our freestyle, right? Now that feels great for me. That feels great for me. But from what I understand in the voting, we could have won with 5s. So it should have, because the voting was so crazy high. Bobby Bones's his fan base is massive. He had like 5 million listeners every morning on his radio show that were hearing how to vote. And at the time, the voting system was you still had 24 hours to vote.
Oh, so it wasn't just during the show on the East Coast?
No, it was a different format.
Interesting.
And so he was rallying his people, and they are fierce and loyal people for him and fans for him, and they were there, man, with multiple accounts and voting. So part of me wishes that we had been given 5s and 6s for our freestyle and still won. And then it's like, well, what do you do? You know, so it's hard to say how that win feels for other people because my win always felt like it had some sort of negative energy attached to it.
Right.
Now I don't feel that. Now I'm really proud because at the end of the day, I did that work. Like I did I turned up every day. I created the best I could create. I taught him the best I could possibly teach him. And because I'm good at what I do and allowed him to be him, we got to the final. It's not my fault that we won, but it is also because of us as a team that we won. I don't know. There's so much attached to that gives me big feelings. I don't regret the win, but it was a hard one for me to process.
Right. That's so rough that you worked your whole life, this season, you take home the trophy.
Yeah, like it still gets talked about it now. I think Max was just talking about how nobody wanted Bobby to win. Jules commented how it was probably the win that shouldn't have happened. And fair, I get people's perspective. There's no, I don't have hard feelings. I just wish my legacy after 14 years on Dancing with the Stars was seen a little differently.
Right.
You know?
Does that make you want to get back in the ballroom to get another win?
Oh my God, I don't. You know, people ask me this question all the time. When are you going to come back? Will you come back? I judge Dancing with the Stars in Australia, and I really, really love that role for me. It feels so beautiful and like the next level, and sitting there and giving back on the knowledge that I have. I very much like to actually it's funny when he judged, it reminds me of what I do. I like to leave them with something they can work on. They're never going to dance a cha-cha again. They're never going to dance a paso doble again, but they are going to dance again. So I always love to give them something they can carry forward in the competition. And I really love that role. It doesn't mean I feel like I'm done dancing though. It's not a yes and it's not a no. I think if it felt aligned with me and I felt like I could have a one more shot of giving it everything I had. Conrad Green is back, so it's a different experience for the pros now than what it was on my last few seasons.
Did you get a taste of that during the 500th episode?
Oh yeah, I've had a taste of that just watching the show. Him being back has brought back so much magic because not only does he get the show, he's a huge supporter and advocate for the dancers on the show and their creativity and their voice and what they want to do. He knows that they make the show. They are the consistent. They are who the fan base attached to and say, I can't wait to see who Viall has this season. They are the people that are cheering because Jenna finally got a one that was just so absolutely beautiful for her. And I think she could have won so many times before. And it was that, people rallying that she finally got it, you know? So Conrad gets that. So the fact that he's back, it makes it very, very, very tempting to come back and do another season.
Let's say you were asked to do either judging or dancing. What would you rather do?
If both were on the table?
In the American version, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So here's the thing. In my dream world, if both were on the table, I would do both. I would compete and judge myself. No, I would actually love to judge, but also have performances throughout the season like what Derek does.
Right.
I've not done dancing. But the thing with coming back and being a pro on the show is I would really have to, I'm a mum now. We have 4 kids at home. And it would be, and life is so different. Me, when I'm a pro for those 3 months, I am tunnel vision. Like that's it. I'm working when I'm at work, and when I go home, I'm watching my tape. I'm planning the next dances. Like it's all the things. It's consuming. And I don't know how I balance work Sharna, pro Sharna with mum Sharna. You know, because it's not even career. Career is different. I can balance that. We have help when we need it. But those 3 months, I'm not really present for much else other than that person that needs me in the dance space and the creation space. So I've got to figure out if I have it in me to be able to balance those two. And Brian and I talked about it. He's like, baby, we can rally. So what? 3 months. If you want one more season, like, let's go do that. You know, let's make that happen for you. So I have all the support in the world to do it. I just have to figure out if it feels aligned for me or not.
It's so true, because there is a line, because this is your passion that you got into from young. Mm-hmm. So, and now you're doing it. So now you really have to find that balance.
Yeah, it's different now. You know, my life has completely shifted and changed, and it doesn't mean I can't do all the things, but it does mean I can't do all the things all at once, all at the same time, right? You can have everything, but just in its moment. So I can have my Dancing with the Stars pro season, but I won't be the most present mum at the same time, involved with my kids and at school meetings and all the things. So, okay, if I feel okay taking that moment and that chunk of time and everyone's aligned with it and it all works for everyone, then let's do it. It takes a village. You know what I mean?
With judging, the way that Derek approaches it, do you think that he has a different perspective than other judges might have because he was in the dancer's shoes?
100%.
And that's what Mark brought as well when he was guest.
That's what Mark brought as well. And that's what I find when I'm judging in Australia. We've been there. We've been on the other side of the table. You have empathy and understanding for that couple standing there who just also need a little bit of validation, because they worked their ass off that week for their dance to be at that level. No one tried to have a shitty dance. You know, well, no one tried to not do cha-cha technique. No pro out there didn't teach them hip action. It either happened or it didn't. You know what I mean? And so that pro and that celebrity need validation on the fact that they tried so hard to make all the things happen. And I think sometimes that gets missed a little bit. Sometimes with the other judges, it can just be all the things you did wrong, or all the things I didn't see. And I think as a pro, you also have a different language on how to explain things because you've been teaching it to non-dancers for years. So you can explain things in a way that they can digest, and also the people at home can digest. They go, oh, right. I explain all the time in a frame position, heart up. So instead of like head up or shoulders back, I think heart up, because heart, if you think of lifting your heart up to the sky, it automatically puts your whole body in a different position, the intention of it. That came from the discovery of just teaching people that don't know how to dance and don't know dance terminology, how to like dumb it down in a sense, like layman's terms that they go, oh, I get it. You know, and so I think when all three of us bring that, you know, individually, we've all judged now, Mark, Derek, and myself, that is something unique to us.
Right. How would you approach it when you had your celeb partner? How did you teach them the choreography?
Oh, everyone's different. Everybody's different. So it depends. Some people are visual learners. Some people need to feel it and just be pushed through it.
Do you learn that as the weeks go by?
Yeah, definitely. So in those first few weeks before the season starts, you have 2 to 3 weeks usually, and hopefully 3 weeks, you really learn. Your job is to not just teach them their first dance, but to learn and study them. how do they listen? Do they need eye contact or do they need action? Because everyone listens differently. Sometimes people don't want direct eye contact. They like bug out and they can't take in what you're saying. So you need to say it to them as you're maybe showing them or as you're taking a drink of water. Like you have to find all the isms of the person on how to actually connect with them the best. You know, figure out their personality. Do they need nurturing? Do they need tough love football coach? Do they need over and over repetition, or do they need to sleep on it? Everybody is different, and you learn that. It is your job to study that in the first 3 weeks. You're just studying human behavior while you're teaching someone how to dance. And then throughout that, you're also getting to know them. You're getting to know what makes them emotional, like what's going to bring something out of them. Can they tell stories? Do they have a story to tell? Do you want to tell it? All this stuff you're putting into your Dancing with the Stars journey. And then once that first show hits, hopefully you've like got a lot of information in your back pocket on how to teach them and what the right journey is for them. And then you can design it from there.
So let's say you hear a 50-second song. You hear it once in full. Do you already have a sense of where it's going to go throughout? Are you marking it down on a piece of paper of what kind of moves you're going to give them?
Once in full, for me, I would probably just be like, I either love or hate this song, right? It's just the initial reaction. And for me, I see shapes and colors when I hear music. So I wait to see like what comes to me. Where do I feel it moving? Steps come last to me, honestly, when I'm creating. I like to see where things are going to move around the room. I'm always about staging and moving places. I hate dancers that are in one place. So I like to see where they're going to start and where they're going to move to and what part of the music feels like it wants to go really, really fast, or on the lyrics, what part do I want to go through it, go completely against the beat, you know? And so I decide on those things first and sort of have an outlined blur in my head of like shapes and colors and where it moves to, and that tells me emotion, that tells me story, that tells me energy, and then from there I go back and create.
When you say you hear like colors, what does that mean?
Colors to me are like emotions and energies. So it gives me a feeling of whether I want something to be fast or slow or angsty or emotional, you know, or a joke and a play between people. Like, what is it giving me in its energy and its emotion? And then shapes is very much like, it's like lines and shapes. If I have a group number of people, I see shapes for sure, like formations of people where they could go, what would be cool? How can they merge, like geometry merging into one another? It's like all those sorts of things. I know my brain's weird.
No, it's
I'm
so
not
cool.
saying everyone's like this, but this is my crazy brain.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, all of that comes to me first before I'm doing the actual steps.
Is there anyone from this season that you would have loved to be partnered with?
Honestly, I mean, here's the thing. Joey reminded me so much of a partner I had, James Hinchcliffe. And James Hinchcliffe is to this day, like, he's like my brother from another mother. He is a soulmate of mine. He and his wife, Becky, are dear friends of mine. We stay in contact all the time.
You guys came in second.
We came in second, yeah, to Viall and Laurie. And that second place, that one was a hard one for me. I really wanted that win for him. But Joey and Jenna, their season reminded me very much of James and I. The way that they would have fun, their banter, their respect for one another, all of those sorts of things. They're just, that was the perfect mix. And I think he was also, and how he won, he was good enough that he could absolutely have beaten someone like Chandler, who was a dancer, right? Her technique and her precision, her nuance, unparalleled in the season. But he was also a non-dancer, which is what Dancing with the Stars is about. So he actually embodied perfectly what you need to win Dancing with the Stars. Enough raw talent that you can go out there and kind of look like a dancer, but have enough imperfections where people go, but he's not a dancer. Paired with an amazing personality.
You should be a judge.
Thank you. Yeah, he did great.
Do you have a favorite part of the whole process? Is it teaching them? Is it performing them? Is it you hear the clicks of the music and you're about to do the dance?
Oh my God, I think the clicks are the worst part of
really?
the whole experience. The clicks, the anxiety that gives you, like the anxiety of the click, click, click.
You see the cameraman running in.
Oh my God, yeah, it's a lot. Either that or do they still do it? The when they're doing the eliminations and the dun dun dun, like the lights come on you and you just feel sick. They're the worst parts. My favorite part of the process, Of the process itself, it would be the overall seeing someone actually learn how to dance. You know, and you don't really get to see that until the end when you step outside of it, because honestly, when you're in it, you are just so about how to get it to the next step that you don't appreciate how far you've come. So I think the most beautiful part of a season is when you in hindsight, not in hindsight, in retrospect, when you look back at it a few weeks later and you go, oh my God, that was actually amazing. You've got to understand, you're so in a bubble during the season. There's so much stress. There's so many people pulling at you for 1,000,001 things. I keep eating your microphone. You don't get to just live in the moment. You have to do extra interviews. You have wardrobe fittings. You're planning the next pieces. Like, you are so everywhere that you kind of don't get to just sit and enjoy, or at least very few times. I think my James Hinchcliffe season, I got to enjoy and laugh the whole time, and it was beautiful, but that was a very special season. For me, the most beautiful parts of seasons have come right at the end, a week or two later, where I'll like sit down and YouTube myself and be like, was it good or was it not good? Am I
And that's
crazy?
when you watch it back for like the first time?
I will obsess the evening after. Like, I'll go home from the show and be obsessed just watching it over and over. But at that, I'm in a critical point. I'm at a critical perspective point. Like, what could I have done better? What does he need to do next week? What have I got to move it to? Like, obsession. So those 1-2 weeks later when I'm watching it back, there's nothing to improve on. It's just observing now. And so I find that's when I get to go, oh my God, that was actually really good. Oh, I love what I did there. Oh, wow, I really appreciate like how much better he was in his frame from this week to that week. So I get to see it from a different standpoint then. So for me, that's where it started to feel good. My favorite part of the whole season when you're in it is the freestyle. It was always my freestyle. That was always my bag. You know, that was where I got to shine, because I love telling stories. We used to do a week called Most Memorable Year, which was next level amazing. Get the tissue box out, like you get to tell a person's story, and that's my jam. And then it was also freestyle, getting to create the perfect culmination of your journey, not just their individual journey of being a dancer and the stories they've told, but you as a couple, as a team, and bringing something special and emotional into it that people watching could get on that ride and understand the story of it. That was always my favorite.
How'd you like doing the extra stuff of the on-camera interviews and just the banter and when the cameras are rolling while you're practicing? Did you enjoy those kind of things?
I think you get used to it. You know, it's sometimes you really don't enjoy it because you forget you're making a TV show and you're trying to just teach someone how to dance. I think in the beginning, I didn't get it. I had a season, Charlie White, phenomenal dancer. He was he's an ice dancer. And he easily should have been in the final and easily could have won. But I think it was my second season as a pro, and I was still horribly mistaken in thinking that this was just a dance show, forgetting that the show part of it, you need to make television while doing this. So I would get uber frustrated when I'm in the middle of teaching him something and a camera would come in and be like, hey, can you say that again? And I was like, oh, I just said it. Like, it didn't make sense to me. I didn't get it yet. And then I was almost not brought back after that season because I didn't get it. It was like, hey, you got to understand the game of television, like how we make TV. We're not trying to fake things. We're trying to catch real moments, but sometimes you do have to just repeat something that happened because the camera didn't catch it. So understanding that was a big part of the journey for me. And once I got it, then I got it. And then you realize, oh, okay, Dancing with the Stars is a dance show, and I tell my partners this when I had them. But remember that what happens out there on the floor is only a small portion. Let's say 20% of how you're going to get through. The rest of it is how people connect to you, how you respond to the judges, what you say to Jules in the skybox or whatever it's called now. The stuff you put on social media, your journey and how much you improve throughout, like all those things matter so much more than just what you produce in that one live show. And I got it then. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And I got that by watching other pros, Mark, Derek, you know what I mean? The ones that were just crushing it and had been in the game for so long. I watched and I learned.
How do you think you would have done in this now social media world where you have to do all these extra TikToks and sounds and interviews?
Joe, I'm old. It's like, I'm still catching on. It's like, oh, you want me to do a TikTok? But I get it now. I get it. I see how important it is for engagement, for people to want to be a part of it, to go on the journey. People want to learn these dances as well. You know what I mean? So let's give them an opportunity to do that. We did a little bit of social media when I was on the show. We certainly tried to do as much as we could. Was Vine a thing? I think when Vine was a thing in the very beginning, I was with Andy Dick. We did that was my first season as a pro. We did 1 or 2 of them. But now people get it. And that's why the show has had this surge of popularity, because it's a way of connecting more people to it. It's how people digest media now, is a lot through social media.
I'm so excited to see what next season brings.
I can't wait to see what next season brings. This was so amazing. And hopefully that fan base continues. Hopefully they're all just hanging on, waiting for the next season to come. Hopefully they bring back 2 seasons a year. We used to do 2 seasons a year.
Was that a lot?
It was, but it was also awesome. You're earning TV money twice a year. That's crazy. That's a crazy thing to step into. And it was so lovely. It was 2 seasons a year and 2 shows a week. It was Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, how'd that work? So you guys would compete and then you would do the results the following day?
Yeah, and it was and we were all so much younger. So Monday we would do the show, and then we would all be out somewhere Monday night. Mark and his band would be playing at Sayers Club, or we'd all be out doing things, socializing with each other. So you really did become a huge family, because you saw each other socially as well with your celebrities outside the show. And then we'd all be in there hungover on Tuesday. Some of us would have to dance, some of us wouldn't, just waiting to find out your fate of who's going home or not. And then we'd also have the troupe that would do artist performances, and they would, you'd have so much more incredible pro dancing, because we had a whole second 2-hour show. Or was it 1 hour? I don't remember, so long ago. But you had a whole other show where you got to see more dancing. And I do miss that. I know networks don't want to spend the money on those kinds of things anymore, but I think people would love a season that was like the old days.
Yeah. You were partnered with one of my favorite people, Backstreet Boys, Nick Carter.
Nick Carter! Yeah. Do you know him?
I had AJ on. He's the coolest.
AJ's amazing.
So when you have a partner like a Backstreet Boy who can do everything, are you just so jazzed that you get him?
Dude, listen, I had Nick Carter all over my bedroom walls when I was a kid.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I genuinely didn't know who my partner was. So when
did you find out?
I turned up to, he was filming a music video or something like that, because he was just starting his solo stuff. And I turned up to this little mini soundstage. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And my producer who was with me, I think it was Adam Raya, was so excited. And I could just see the giddiness on his face. I was like, what is happening here? And we're standing in this area, in this corridor, and Nick Carter starts walking towards me. And I was like, no, that's not for me. That's not. And I keep looking around that's not he's going to walk right by, right? This is not. And he just walks up to me, and I was giggling like a 12-year-old. I was like, are you my partner for Dancing with the Stars? That was my response to him. It was crazy. And then very quickly get to know him. He's a real human. He's a normal human, great guy. And we had a really beautiful friendship throughout the show, and getting to do stuff with him was so exciting. He can do anything, but he also had terrible habits from his boy band dancing.
In terms of he was just doing it in a different way?
He'd rush things. He was very flat-footed, or he needed better posture with stuff.
Right, because he wasn't doing traditional ballroom.
Totally. So there were things that I had to break out of him, in a sense, these bad habits that he had. But yeah, it was a very cool season. We got second. I think I could have done, that was before I'd really nailed freestyles. I think I could have done it. I have now, in hindsight, a whole other idea that I could have done as a freestyle for him. I wanted to bring all the boys in as well, which we were talking about doing. But yeah, he was amazing. He could have easily won, but Bindi that year with Derek was just so magical. And he did such a beautiful job on the freestyle of her, and it made me cry. It makes me cry thinking about it. So fully deserved win. But yeah, Nick Carter could have won it too.
Was there anything surprising for him about choreography that maybe he thought he knew because he was a dancer in some kind of right, versus what you had to reteach him?
I don't know if there were surprises. It's also, this is a minute ago. I think he was very aware of his stuff in knowing that he has bad habits, that he could rush timing on things. And by rushing, it wasn't necessarily that he would get out of beat. He would not finish moves. Like they would be shorter moves. Like, he would just keep it all in this little boy band box.
What a cool boy band guy.
Yeah, I know. And I needed him to like finish things and like extend those arms and hit the end points of things and go big and go large. And so I think that was something that we had to work on a lot because he would like to keep it all in this little like boy band box. Yeah, it's hard to remember too because it was so long ago, but I know he was very good and he was very fun to teach.
Because you've had actors, TV show hosts, bull riders.
Yeah, bull riders.
Athletes.
Yep. What
do you think is the separation between athletes and other people that you may coach?
So much. So, an athlete, be it a football player or even a basketball player to a degree, they haven't done as great on the show, or even someone that's had dance experience at some point, right? They have been in a position where they're used to someone, teaching them how to do something.
Yelling at them,
maybe telling them in some sort of fashion, no, that's not right, let's do it again. Some people don't hear those words. Do you know what I mean? Some people don't get, especially when you're at celebrity status, maybe you haven't had people tell you that things aren't great for a little while, or you haven't had people correct you on how to do things for a little while. And so that can be a really hard thing for people that aren't used to that kind of training to step into because there's ego involved with that, right? Then they're hearing it as though I'm not good enough, I can't do this. Whereas an athlete hears what's wrong and how to fix it. So it's a very different place to come into. There's physical body stuff. Yes, absolutely. An athlete's body is primed to do the physical work on Dancing with the Stars. But it's really about the mental and emotional point that they're starting at. Because a person that's not used to being coached on something, that's not used to having that what they're doing critiqued, their artistry critiqued, say, is going to come from a very different place to an athlete that's constantly being told how to be better. Do you know what I mean? So it's a very different viewpoint to learn from.
That's why it was so interesting in the finals to see someone from Bachelor. Yes, he is a tennis coach, but he's competing against Olympic athletes.
Yeah.
The best in the world.
The best in the world. But he is like for Joe, like he's a tennis coach. Do you know what I mean? So
he gets it.
He gets it. And he was so respectful and responsive to Jen being able to teach him and whatnot. But I've certainly had partners on the show that, especially when you're coming in for a male-female perspective, do not want some girl coming in telling him how to do things. And that's like you see the trust build and the transition of like, oh, okay, wait, you're not telling me I'm not good enough. You're not telling me I'm bad. You're just teaching me how to dance. Right. You're trying to make me look good. And that's also part of that journey with a celebrity. And the male pros go through it too because women can come in with all sorts of insecurities when you're telling them something doesn't look good. Right? That can really trigger stuff for a woman, especially someone that's in maybe a public field and is feeling like she should always look good. Right? Because that happens a lot. So yeah, it's an interesting place. And then you talk about the physical body stuff. I mean, look at Danny and what he could do this season and the football drills. He can pick up the footwork. He could do any of the lifts. So it makes him incredibly impressive. Makes him a little stiff, but it makes him very impressive.
I loved all of his post-dance interviews. It felt like I was watching a football interview.
yeah, totally.
We hung in there. We did pretty good, and we'll see what happens next.
Totally. And that was something he did really good. And whether it was Whitney that did it or just getting comfortable, but his first episode in the Skybox, I was like, dude's too in the zone. Like, he's got to get out of that media-trained, like, responses to Julianne and is it called the Skybox now?
Yes.
It is called the Skybox. He's got to get out of that because it's not, you don't connect with that. That's no human present. There's nothing there. We wanted to see him be more human in those moments. And she got that out of him,
right. Do you have to coach people to do that, to try and find that human connection?
Yes, and some people know, like Bobby Bones, for example. He was all human connection. He was the most relatable person, I think, to so many people that season. He was like, this is the greatest night of my life. Every week, that was him. So grateful for being here. I know I can't dance, but I love being here. He was amazing at just letting it all be there, be vulnerable and saying all the things. But when you have someone come on Dancing with the Stars who is first of all, media trained from an athlete's point of view, or who isn't used to social media or being vulnerable because they play characters on television. So it's not them themselves being laid bare. You do have to help them through that. Like the football players, you need to be like, yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect all the time. You can say it was hard, or you can say how much you care about it or how much you love it. Like whatever that person needs, help them break it down. But you do have to like hold their hand on how to be a human in reality television, because it's scary for people to suddenly have cameras in their face all the time whilst they're doing something brand new that they probably don't feel good at the time, and they're used to feeling good at doing things. So yeah, it's a lot for them to take in.
Have you ever had anyone completely blank out?
On the floor?
Even before they're getting out, they're like, oh my God, what do we do at this point in the dance?
So actually, your fave, Nick Carter, had a whole moment. It was semi-final. So the package that played, I didn't do the right thing before it. I should have been there distracting him a little bit more, but I didn't get there in time. And it was about his sister's passing. And there was a lot of really raw stuff that came up for him in that interview. A lot of guilt that he was feeling too about how things happened with his sister. And it was really hard. And I clocked him hear it, and it took him completely out of where we were. And then I was with him. He was like getting it together, and he rallies because he's an amazing performer. But all it took was one moment. We came down the stairs and we missed a hand connection. And as I spun in, he's just forgot all of his feet. So for the next, I think it was 2, 3, 8 counts, I can't fully remember, he just shuffled, and I was like pulling him around the floor until we got to a moment where we stop in the middle of the floor. And there was already a choreographed stop, but I stopped him early. And I think we stood there for 2 8s, and I literally looked at him. I grabbed his face and I was like, I got you. And he was like, okay. And we picked up our arms and we went into the next piece. And that moment went everywhere. Like people actually loved seeing it because it was so real that even Nick Carter could accidentally like somehow get thrown off and forget his moves and have a moment in the middle of Dancing with the Stars. A contestant that people were probably like, oh my God, it's so unfair that he's on here. He's a dancer. You know, you hear those comments all the time. No, he's a human having a human experience, and he fully blanked out. He couldn't get it together, and he needed a moment of us just like, I got you. We got this. Let's do this together. And he finished strong.
There was a lot of talk this season about the judges and different scoring and whatnot.
Yeah.
Would you approach, when you heard the judges, did you take their feedback in any certain kind of way? Or was it always kind of just like, they have to say their piece, let's just keep moving on?
You mean this season or as a pro when I'm on the show?
As a pro when you were on the show.
It's hard. So there are some weeks when you're standing there and judges say things and you're like, yeah, I hear you, but like we tried everything to get that to happen. Or you hear them and you're like, oh, that's a new perspective. Thank you so much. We'll take a look at that. For the most part, you try your absolute best to take on what they say and implement it for the weeks coming up, because you do want to show improvement. You want to show respect. But there are some times when you've honestly tried to work on all of those things and they just didn't come out. So you just got to go to your partner and tell them they did the absolute best they could. You are super proud of them. Let all that noise go away. It's you and me, and we're going to get in there and we're going to get better. We're going to do this together. Let's not even think about what they said. But, you know, if you had a Mr. Len Goodman who was like talking about your frame or whatever, and you really wanted to impress him, we would focus on it that week, you know, to really hopefully have him say, I see you worked on it and I see it's better. So you got to really play it by ear, see how your partner is feeling, see what feels aligned with you and what you're trying to create that week. There's no one answer to that. I think it just depends on what they say, how they say it, and how it made your partner feel and what you do with the information.
As a judge yourself, do you think that this season they started the scoring off a little high in the beginning?
100%.
So you think it should be lower and then gradually go up?
100%. When we judge in Australia, we don't go above a 7 generally in the first week or two of the show, because you have to give everyone somewhere to go. So you have to think that, all right, in week 1, a 7, it could have been Chandler. But that 7 could be a 10 later on. But yes, this is still television, and that 10, like Chandler was still going to improve. So to give high scores, so I pick her because she was such an amazing dancer, but to give high scores to anyone in the week 1 and 2, where are they going to go after that? Because they're all going to get better. So you can't do 11 and 12 and 13. So when they're better than what you just gave them in week 1 and 2, what do you give them after that? And giving 10s all season to people is downright boring and also doesn't reflect the improvement that they've all gone through. So you really have to scale down and or be super tough is probably a better way to say it, in those first few weeks while you're seeing where everyone's at and making sure that, you know, everyone has room to grow. They absolutely fell victim to the scores that they gave out in the first few weeks. So it was just too high. And then what do you do with it? Then I think they tried to correct it and people were like, what do you mean a 5 and a 4? Like that's hurtful then when you've seen 8s and 9s come out and then you're seeing a 4. Whereas if you're just seeing from say 1 to 7, because the 1 paddle absolutely comes out in Australia and England. If you're going from 1 to 7, it's a lot easier to digest when you're getting numbers within that range, right? When the highest of the night was a 7, but you got a 5. You don't feel as bad about your 5 because the highest score was a 7. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You scale it to like, all right, these are the numbers we're working with, and you can rank yourself first, second, third, fourth, down to 10th. But if you go from 10 all the way, it doesn't give you that journey. And then you can see people's scores improve and then people rally with them as their scores improve. The celebrity feels validated when their scores improve. They're not just stuck on 7s for an entire season. Right. Because that's frustrating too. You know, what you worked so hard and you improved so much and you're getting the same score. That's what sucks as a competitor on the show.
So do you think next season they'll start a little lower just to try and balance that out?
I don't know. Maybe. It depends. You know, America hasn't really been a show that's given out the 2s and 3 paddles. Like even when Len was on, I don't think that we've ever really done that. For some reason, in other countries, it does happen. We have.
Have you ever thrown out a 2?
I have thrown out a 2.
A 1? Have you ever?
No, not a 1. I reserved that for Craig, who is also on the English one. The 1 feels just a smidge too hard. There's one contestant that's been on Dancing with the Stars in America that I would have absolutely given a 1, and that's Master P. I don't know if you've ever seen his cha-cha. You should go back and watch it. It's the worst dancing to have ever been on Dancing with the Stars. I would have given that a 1. But no, I've definitely given 2s, but it's also given with like kindness and respect. Yeah. You know, it's not because I'm trying to say you're horrible. It's trying to say this is where you're at in comparison to this, and this is how much room you have to grow, sort of thing. But it's hard. Judging is hard. When you're in it and you're in the room, I have to tell you, it's all good and well for me to do my critiques this season from my kitchen where I get to watch it, right? But when you're in the room and you're watching it from a side angle, you're seeing the audience and feeling the audience react. Again, energy is transferable. So when people are loving it so much, you as a judge actually have to disassociate and just watch the dance. You know, if you get caught up in the emotion of it, then you're going to throw out a score higher than what you would if you were watching just the dance. Right. It's hard.
How did you find dance?
How do I find dance?
How did you find it growing up?
Oh, I was a country kid. I grew up in a country town. And so I was in all sports and all forms of dance.
Back in Australia?
Yeah. In a little country town called Wagga Wagga.
Wagga Wagga.
Wagga Wagga. So good they named it twice. And I was in everything, all sports, all dance. And when we moved to Sydney when I was about 13, my parents couldn't keep me in everything. We weren't a rich family. And certainly my parents worked. So it was like, how do I get to all these things? And I got to pick one. And I picked the most expensive of all of them.
The most time-consuming.
The most time-consuming, all of it, which was ballroom dancing, because I was also doing so well in it at the time.
Oh, it was specific to ballroom?
Yes.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, I was doing really well in that. I was also doing jazz and ballet and tap and whatever when I was a kid too. But I was doing so well at ballroom that I decided to stick with that. And got a dance partner in Sydney and very quickly was doing really well at competitions and went to the World Championships when I was 15 and all that sort of stuff.
Were you naturally just good at it? At
dance?
Yeah.
I think I was naturally good at physical things. I was naturally really good at swimming. Not ball, that sounds terrible, but like basketball, like playing anything like ball sports, I was terrible at. There's something about my hand-eye coordination where it's like, I swear I tried to throw it that way and it went that way. That's not a me thing. But like track and field, physical body stuff, I always had quite a skill set for, gymnastics, but I loved dance. I loved the creativity. And for ballroom dancing, for me, in my very energetic little self was like, there were 10 different dancers of 10 different styles of music and 10 different techniques. Like that's a dream. You know what I mean? It's not all just one thing. It felt like there were so many different things to play with. And I loved that. And I loved the social nature of it too, dancing with another person and just the way it was when I was a kid. So it stuck for me.
And then after you do those competitions, where do you go from there? Is that when you got to burn the floor?
So, well, so this life that we all ended up in as ballroom dancers is something that none of us could ever have imagined for ourselves.
There was no trajectory.
There was no television and film or choreographing for it. Ballroom dancing was what your grandparents did. You know, I thought I was going to own a dance studio, become a world champion, have it in my dance studio in probably Wagga Wagga or Sydney, wherever I was going to be.
Wagga Wagga.
And give Wagga Wagga. And give back to the dance community. That was my dream. And then when I'd moved to London when I was 18 to continue competing, my visa ran out after 2 years, and my dance partner and I were like, well, what are we going to do? And Burn the Floor asked us to be a part of it. And we were such purists at the time. Like, I don't know why you thought being broke had anything to do with being a good dancer, but it was like, no, we were not going to sell out and do a show, but we'll do it for like one tour, make some money, figure out where we're going to be. We were considering Germany because he was from there. We were considering getting married for a visa, like all sorts of stuff. And then we joined Burn the Floor. We did this Asian
They reached out
tour.
to you?
Yeah, they reached out to us. We competed at the Australian Championships. Jason Gilkison came to us and was like, hey, I really want you to do Burn the Floor. And we were like, it's coming at the right time. We'll go earn some money, figure out our next move, then we'll go back to competing.
Was this a new show at the time?
It had been around for ages.
Okay.
It had been around for so long. And I remember seeing the show when I was like 15 and saying to my mum, I wanted to do it. And she was like, no, sweetie, you know, you're too young, type of thing. At this point, I'm now 19, 20. And I didn't necessarily want to do it at this point. I wanted to compete. I wanted to be a world champion. That was my goal. So we decided to do it for a short run, which became 6 years. I never went back to competing. Like we did 1 or 2 competitions after that. We were training whilst we were on tour, and that was okay. But what I fell in love with and what I realized was I don't love competing to be the best. It's not actually about that. The world championship thing was just because that's everyone's dream. What I love is telling stories. What I love is making people feel something when I dance. What I love is entertaining people, getting to discover who I am as a human being throughout dance. Like that's what I got out of Burn the Floor. I fell in love with dance in a way that I hadn't experienced in my first 20 years of life in dancing. I had finally found where I belonged. It wasn't on a competition floor. It was creating magic so other people could watch it, giving them stories they could attach to, a place to escape to with all the noise that happens in this world, something that they could just be transported into a different space and time for a moment. And that is why I love dance so much. That's where I found out I'm a storyteller.
And then where do you find Dancing with the Stars from there?
They found me. So like so many others that you've probably asked about their story, Burn the Floor was on Broadway in 2009. And to promote the show, we went and did a performance on Dancing with the Stars. Dancing with the Stars, being the cheeky buggers that they are, very Australian, pulled us just ever so slightly into another room and was like, hey, speak to this camera and say your name. Like a little off to the side, no one knows about interview audition tape for Dancing with the Stars. And I was this punk rocker, black and blue hair kind of chick at the time. And I don't know, they asked me questions and I said things. And not long, I said stuff. I said words and apparently they were good. Then not long after that, they reached out to me and like offered a contract to be a pro on the show.
No troupe.
So this was before we were still, where were we? Were we putting the show together in Perth? I have this vision of the hotel room. So that I get sent a contract to be a pro on the show, no troupe. But at the time, I was still contracted to Burn the Floor. I still really wanted to do Broadway. We'd all been a part of this dream collectively for years with Jason Gilkison to be on Broadway, and it didn't feel right for me to leave. And so I stayed with Burn the Floor. And then after Burn the Floor came around, we were extended for 9 months on Broadway. Now it's 2010. I'm finishing off the UK tour of Burn the Floor, and Dancing with the Stars comes back around again. And so I ended up doing the fall season of 2011. So it took a couple of years to get there. Peter came over much quicker than I did. I think she left Burn the Floor after Broadway. I stayed with it for a little bit longer. But they found me. And when they came back to me in 2011, there was now a troupe. And it was a great way to be introduced, to be honest. Like, I was a great dancer, but I had no idea what this television game was about. I'm also now stepping into a world where you've got to teach a man. I'm not just teaching dance to a couple and whatever. It's like teaching a man to be a man in ballroom dancing. Like, that's a whole journey in itself for a pro on the show. And I'm so grateful that I had 3 seasons on the troupe where I helped all the pros. I helped them choreograph, I helped them teach, I helped them with their freestyles, like all that sort of stuff. And I learned how to be a pro just by watching them. And then I got to step into my first season, which was Andy Dick.
What a partner to start the show with.
They were like, congratulations, you're a pro, you have Andy Dick. I was like, who? And then they showed me and I was like, oh, the blowjob guy from, what is that movie?
Road Trip?
Not Road Trip. Old School.
Old School. Is he in Old School?
Yes, he's the guy that turns up for the blowjob class with all the guys.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that guy, okay. Excuse my language, everyone. And so they'd said he'd been sober for a few months. And I was like, great. And I'd had a lot of experience with addicts in my life anyway. So I was like, okay, I'm probably well equipped to step into this with him. And he was amazing. He was so vulnerable and open, and he tried everything, and he was patient and kind and funny. He was wonderful. He was a great first partner to have, although a little crazy, but like we got to do crazy stuff and that was fun.
What'd you think of your first season on the show? Was it everything you expected?
Was it everything I expected? I don't know that I knew what to expect.
Were you talking to PETA and other people that you knew on the show?
Yeah, Max, Val. I'd known everyone for so long. They were so very excited for me to be a pro on the show. And if any time I needed help, they'd step into the room, of course, and that was awesome too. But I really just, those first few seasons that you get, you're so geared up. You have so many ideas. You have so much adrenaline that you just like come busting at the seams with all the stuff. And so I feel like I was just on it. You know what I mean? Like creatively buzzing, ready to teach, ready to do, ready to move with the punches, have no real ego in anything yet, just super grateful to be here. Like, tell me where you need me, like all those sorts of things. So my first season was really wonderful. And despite it being Andy who was battling with alcoholism, although he was sober, it was easy. We had fun. You know, we did a Vine skit here and there. Like, it was good. It was my second season where I felt like I'd had a little like experience now that I had to have an adjustment on understanding this was a TV show and that we worked together as a team to make things happen.
What's the most valuable lesson you learned on being on TV all those years? Being
on TV?
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many layers to that. The most valuable lesson I learned being a pro was that it is not about me. It has nothing to do with me, nothing even to do with my creativity and choreography. It has everything to do with that person and what they need and giving them a beautiful experience on the show. That's how you get the most out of them. I can come in with all of the ideas, but if they don't work and they don't sit well with them, get ready to move on to something else, because it is not about me. It's not about what I think. It's about what works. And that was a really big lesson for me, right? Because you can go in with an idea and get so stuck on it, and then you're wasting 2 days trying to make it work, when there's a million other options of things that could have worked way quicker and made them more comfortable and given you a better result. So there's that. And then I think my greatest lesson of being on TV all those years, it's hard. You let people into your world, especially being on reality television. And I think I'll never forget the first time I found some sort of page of like, we hate SHARNA BURGESS, right? I'd had a few seasons, and when you look at comments, there are all these positive things, and then people decide that they don't like you after a while or whatever. That happens when you're in the public eye. And I'll never forget the first time I came across literally a thread on something of we don't like SHARNA Burgess, picking at all things about me. And even though they're shooting their shot in the dark of what they're saying, some of them landed. Some of them were absolutely my insecurities about physical appearance or ability or whatever it was. And it ruined me. It destroyed me. Called my mum crying. Like, how do I get through this? All these things that people think of me. And then you think everybody thinks this of you. And it took a lot of work, time, experience, to understand that these people that say these things are more so saying it about themselves or things in their own life or things that they don't feel are right than they are saying it about me. They don't know me. So maybe the person that can't stand me, their husband cheated on him with a redhead. You know what I mean? It could be as simple as that. Maybe the person that's saying something about my body is actually really unhappy with theirs. Whatever that was. So understanding to take it away from it having anything to do with me. It's nothing to do with me. It's not my world. They're not my people. They don't know me. They're just saying something because they're hurt. And that was a really big lesson. And then I can find empathy for those people. Then I can find patience and understanding and go, that's okay. You're having a human experience too. And you should get to go through that. And I wish you well with that and not let it also become my human experience.
It's so hard because you're putting yourself out there and then you're just the target.
100%. And especially a show like Dancing with the Stars, you're not playing a character. You are you. And this is your creativity and your passion and your art. This is your heart that you're putting out on that floor. And you want it to be loved by people. But it's not going to be loved by everyone. Not everyone is going to like you. Not everyone is going to like what you produce and what you create. And so it just matters how you feel about it and if you feel you did a great job.
Right.
But yeah, you're trying to separate myself from the noise of what other people say was a really big lesson in television.
In all your years teaching, do you have to coach your celebrities on that too? Because now they're putting themselves into a completely different world.
Yeah. You know, I think they come from a world where they have public attention anyway.
Right.
And if I see them getting stuck in comments or like just doom scrolling them, you know what I mean? The noise of it and like seeing it get to them, then we got to have a moment. Like, let's sit down and have a chat, get a coffee, whatever we need to do to talk about this and help you through it. Because if it's happening in the room with Jansen, it's happening in their life also. They're obviously so much more open to that noise, not just because of Dancing with the Stars, but because of maybe stuff they're going through. So it's about finding out what that was. Like, why does it bother you so much? Like, where's it coming from? Right. You know, why do you let it get to you? Instead of, you don't look that way, or you don't do it like that, or I promise you that's not true. It's like, no, why is it? Why are your defenses down? Like, why are you feeling so attacked by it? Let's get to that.
How did you end up being partnered with Brian?
Well, we were dating for a year already.
So did you bring him in? Was there a pitch or anything?
We had said we'd never do the show together. And at the time, it was a different executive producer. Like, it was a different experience on the show. And it was like, no, we probably wouldn't do the show together. Like, I don't know. I've also never dated any of my partners. It's not been my thing because I know me. I said to you, I'm tunnel vision, right? I know what I need to be as a pro on the show. And I don't know if I can mix personal and like pro SHARNA with that. Like, am I going to get pissed off at you because you said something outside the studio and now I can't do my job properly in the studio? Do you know what I mean? I never knew if I could be that person, so I never danced with it. Pun
never
intended.
Danced with it.
Yeah. But with Bri, we'd been dating for 12 months already, and they'd reached out about him doing the show for pretty much all the seasons it had even been on air, and he'd said no every single time. And we said no the first few times, and they honestly came back with an offer that was just so crazy. It was like, do we? Like, we can just afford the therapy afterwards if we need to type of shit. And it was like, oh God, do we do this? And he was the one that said, you know what? I'd actually love to see what you love so much.
That's so cool.
Let's do it.
To step into your world.
To step into my world. And he was super scared of it. He'd also, in the last few years, had been through a lot of neurological stuff where it made it very hard for him to remember choreography and physical movement. And so he was feeling very, very nervous about sharing that. He didn't know if he could possibly do it. Unfortunately, on the show, none of the packages talked about his the things that he was up against when it came to learning choreography. And so I wish they did show that a little bit more, but I'm still really grateful that we did it together. He gets the show. He loves the show now. You know, he watches, we have the show on, watching it with our kids. Everyone rallies behind it. And they all rally behind me with it. And he gets what I'm like on the show when I'm working. So if I ever do another season, he's not going to be a partner that's like, what do you mean you need another 5 hours at the studio with him? You know, there's not a jealous bone in his body, by the way, but he'll be like, yeah, baby, get it. Do what you got to do. So, you know, he gets me now because he got to see me work. And I think that was a really beautiful thing we got to share.
How were you able to approach work Sharna with personal Sharna?
With Bri?
Yeah.
It was hard, dude. It was really hard because I wanted to push him more, but I also could see the struggles that he was up against with the memory and everything that was going on, but also emotionally the insecurities he was feeling of not being able to dance in front of me. You know, there was so many layers to it there that I was just so personally and emotionally connected to of what was going on that I couldn't be the football coach, like drill sergeant, to get it together for him. And I don't know that's what he needed either. But he was doing really well. And it was when the comments just from the judges would always take this turn of like, they gave us Snow White, right? And so he gave me the kiss in the beginning, and then we got up and we danced. And then there was a comment made about kissing in the dance. I was like, it's Snow White, you gave us the song. Like, what do you mean? And there was always seemed to be some comment about the relationship getting in the way of the dancing. Or I don't know. It didn't feel like a beautiful experience for us as much as I wanted it to be, right? It felt very different. And we were gone within the first 4 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
Because it was hard. It was really hard, I think, to create the same journey. Other people would do a much better job at it, you know, but I, being such an empath, and a deeply feeling person, when I could see the man that I love really struggling and hurting and doing his absolute best, I can't disassociate from that and just be his football coach. Like, I want to love him and nurture him through that. And at the end of the day, what we had said to each other was relationship comes first, number one. Like, this is just an experience. This is just a dance show. We'll go for as long as we can go, but we are a team. And the beautiful thing that came out of that is that we realized how much of a team we are. And anything that we came up against, we handled it together beautifully.
Was there anything shocking or he was completely impressed by about you and what you were doing that he didn't know prior to being physically there?
He would probably say it better than me, to be honest. But I think it's just work ethic. Like, seeing how, not just me, how all of us, it is, you're 100% in at all times. And you have to think about a million different things. I think it's understanding the nuances of the job. Oh, you're not just teaching dance. It's so much more than that. All the conversations you have to have, all the prep you have to do, all the stuff you have to think about moving forward. Like, there is so much more in it than just teaching a cha-cha.
Yeah.
And I think he understood the weight of that and the size of that and has deep respect for what people do on the show. That's why whenever I would critique as well, by the way, on my Instagram this last season, he'd jump in the back and be like, Brandon, you do an amazing job. It's just like, he just wants to love on everyone. He's a big Viall fan, you know what I mean? Like, and Jenna this season too, he just wants everyone to know that they're doing an amazing job because he's seen how hard it is.
Right. How are you enjoying doing the podcast together?
Oh, I love it. It's so fun. Like, we knew each other obviously so well, but sitting in that room with him and having on all different types of guests of all different walks of life and careers and hearing the things come out of his mouth, I'm like, oh, damn. All right, baby. Like, it's like I fall in love with him even more when he drops some sort of knowledge or experience or has an epiphany moment. You know, it's been a really cool thing. We speak to everyone from celebrities to sex therapists. Like, it doesn't matter. We'll bring anyone in for a conversation, and it's really cool to see what comes out of it. Certainly Randy keeps us together because Brian and I can like go off on tangents and speak for days about certain things, and Randy is much better at like keeping going, much like you are with an interview. You know, he knows his questions and where he wants it to go. So Brian and I are just like the fun on the side, I think.
Yeah. Do you guys have any fun plans coming up?
Plans coming up?
Vacations, family, anything?
So we have When does this air?
Either this week or next week.
Oh, then I won't say it. But
Yeah,
I have a
before
fun
Christmas.
thing planned that is a present that I'm very excited about.
Okay.
And then next year, Australia. So I've got to go in February. I leave for Australia to judge Dancing with the Stars over there for our season. Bry's going to come with me. Zane's going to be there. And hopefully the kids are going to be in school, but hopefully I can get them out there for a week.
How old is Zane now?
Zane's 2.5, going on 22. He's so demanding. He's so independent.
Going on 22.
It's crazy. This kid, he's definitely an old soul.
Are you seeing, what kind of personality traits are you seeing develop?
He is so his daddy, but he's a very sensitive, deep feeling kid. But he loves his independence. Once he knows how to do something, he wants to do it. And he very much has his daddy's, he has Bry's like acts of service. He wants to make my coffee for me now because he knows how to make it. Make mama coffee. Like he wants to do things for you. He always wants to share with you and make sure you have a great experience in whatever you're doing. He knows that I always lose my phone. So whenever he sees it, he brings it to me. Mama, don't. Like, because he knows that I'll be at some point, where's my phone? It's so funny what he picks up on. And it's so funny that at 2.5, how much they know. It's wild. He's a whole human in that little body. He's just learning how to say all the words, but he gets everything. His comprehension is ridiculous. And suddenly he'll just say stuff. And I'm like, how do you know that? Or where did that even come from? It's amazing. I say I have 4 kids at home, but Zane is the first one I'm raising since birth. So I'm really seeing how a human being develops and grows and learns and becomes the people that we are. And it's just wild. It's a trip.
Do you ever dance in front of him?
All the time. He loves it. He loves it. And then sometimes if he's feeling moody, he's like, Mama, no dance. Because he also knows that dance is when I go to work and when I leave. So he has this battle between wanting to dance with me or me no dance and he just dances. Right. Because when he associates dancing with me, it's because I'm going to work.
Right.
Mama no dance, mama
You're not going to be there.
Yeah.
Aww.
It's funny the way he associates things.
You guys all go to Australia. Has Brian been there much prior to being with you?
No, his first time was last year.
Oh, so you got to show him around.
Yeah, all
How
the
cool.
kids came out. So I was judging, it was the middle of the year at the time, so it was a winter show. And all of them came out. They came for like 2 weeks because it was June or July. So the kids are at summer break, much easier time to do it. And they loved it. They freaking loved it. And I shared with them all the things I loved as a kid, like the types of ice creams and candy and like the places I'd love to go and the beaches that I love to go to.
Vegemite?
Like, Vegemite.
Do they like
so my
it?
kids will eat Vegemite. Brian,
Really?
however, will not eat Vegemite. But I made a mistake, Joe. When I gave it to him the first time, I gave it to him the way I eat it.
How do you eat it?
I eat it with lots of Vegemite. But you're supposed to have it with
Lots of
more butter than Vegemite. It's supposed to be just like a smidge of Vegemite to like flavor and salt the butter, basically. But I like Vegemite. And so I gave it to him on toast and he damn near threw up in his mouth. But Zane, however, will eat it by the spoonful, which trumps me. Like you don't eat it by the spoonful. That's crazy. But my kid will just sit there and eat Vegemite from the jar.
What was the most shocking thing when you came to America? Being from Australia.
Well, first of all, my first place I ever went to in America was Las Vegas. So it was kind of all shocking. I was like, this is America? Like wild. The portion sizes of food, the salad would come out and I was like, that's a whole meal, right? No, that's just your like side salad.
That's the prep.
It's crazy that so much of that was so very different. But I have to admit, like Las Vegas was, and I was 21 at the time, it nearly swallowed me whole. All of us on Burn the Floor. We nearly didn't make it out alive.
Were you performing a show there?
Yeah. We did a 3 or 4 month run at the Luxor Casino.
Wow.
But we were living at the Excalibur, the one that looks like the old Disney
the castle?
It's horrendous. Yes, it's so bad. So old. Absolutely haunted, by the way. And
you guys are in the hotel rooms?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And we were living there, and so then we would get to eat at the employee dining areas and whatever, and then we would go do the show over at the Luxor.
Is that 7 nights a week? 6?
5, because weekends were open for headliners and whatnot to come into the theatre. And so because we were such a successful show on the Strip, we just had access to all the nightclubs every night. And it was a lot. And we were at them every night. It nearly swallowed us all whole.
You're 21.
21, Las Vegas, like getting the bottle service at Pure Nightclub. I don't even know if that's still around. Dre's was underground. Spearmint Rhino was the strip club we went to. Like it was a shit show. It was a lot. But I would never trade those days because it was like wilding out. But we had such a good time. And I have no desire for it anymore. I'm done. That's it. I'm good.
You got it out of your system.
I've got it out of my system. No, thank you. I'm good. Vegas. I hear Vegas and I'm like, oh God, I've got to like gear up for this if we're going to Vegas.
Could you tell me about the movie you were just doing?
Yes, I totally can. So it's so exciting. I love, as I say, I'm a storyteller. So I've been really discovering acting the last couple of years and just so into it. And I had my first acting job, a SAG movie. It's a horror flick. Now, I am not a horror flick girl. So it was really, I was like, do I take this or do I not?
But you don't consume them at all?
Not really.
Oh, like I love horror.
You do?
So good.
So it's just not my genre. I'll watch it. My kids love it. What is that? My kids, they're like 12 and under and they love horror. But for me, I'm like, why do I want to feel that way? Anyway, I'm in a horror movie. It's called Three Little Pigs. And it is based off of the Three Little Pigs nursery rhyme and the Big Bad Wolf. And that's all I'm allowed to say about it right now. I have a role in it. I'm the farmer's wife. My name is Carrie. We're still shooting. I actually have this Wednesday, I'm coming up to shoot my last few scenes.
Where are you doing it?
Is gruesome. We have a farm that we're at. There's Altadena and then also like Simi Valley Way. There's 2 different farms and ranches that we're at.
And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So your death is gruesome. Okay, what else could you say?
My death is absolutely gruesome. I haven't even shot it yet. Like we're shooting that coming up this Wednesday, and I am so intimidated by it.
Did they do any screen tests or anything with you for this scene?
No. Okay. No screen. They're just like, yep, are you good with it? And I was like, I think I'm good with it. I'm not allowed to say what's in it. But yeah, I've been fitted for all the prosthetics and, you know, there's like all sorts of stuff going on. I'm a drinker and a smoker. I haven't smoked a cigarette since I was in my 30s. I was like, oh my God, went home with a headache after the first day. But it's so fun. So my first scene that we shot, I damn near didn't feel my whole body. It was just so much adrenaline and emotion and gratitude and whatever, all the things, standing out there doing this scene. The nerves in me, like I haven't felt nervous like that in such a long time. Yes, you get nervous on Dancing with the Stars. I oddly don't get nervous judging, but performing, absolutely. But this was like a whole other set of vulnerability and nerves that I was feeling. And Bri was there on set and he was watching from the monitor as well because he got to be there. And I remember after it, I sort of looked up looking for validation. Like, did it happen? Was it good? I blacked out. I don't know what happened. And he had the hugest smile on his face. He was like, baby, it was fucking amazing. And I had so many compliments from all the production and the director, like people coming up and just, I know they were also giving me confidence, but it was really genuine what they were saying. And it made me feel like, oh, wow, I think I can do this. Because I do love storytelling. And for the longest time, I had this imposter syndrome of, what do you mean be an actress? People would tell me I need to be an actress all the time. What do you mean? I haven't studied it my whole life. I studied dance my whole life. Like, surely I can't just switch genres. It feels disrespectful to the art form. But I love it. And there's so much that carries over from dance into acting. Because you take it from being a whole body thing to just your breath and your voice and your eyes. Like, you transport it in a different way, the message. And I'm obsessed with it, dude. I'm obsessed with it. So we'll see where it goes. Who knows? It's so fun to be doing this movie, and I'm hopefully going to call in a lot more of this type of opportunity.
Is there a release date expected for this?
2025. We haven't finished filming yet, so it's hard to say a release date.
Yes.
But I will totally let you know.
Please.
When it's coming out.
Are you running lines with Brian?
Yeah. Yeah, I run lines with Bri. He helps me. I ask him questions all the time about process, like, again, preparing for this death scene that I have. And then also...
That's so cool. You get killed off in your first thing.
I know, right? It's crazy. And there's another scene where it's like, it's a really deeply emotional thing, but there's no other person in it because it's information I get through a phone call. So I was like, oh, I can't practice that with anyone. How do I practice that? Like, and what do you do to generate... that emotion and story when there's no other human that you're playing off of. So he's been invaluable for me in the experience of like just this. And I've been in class for a long time. Like, I love it in class, but that's different to like suddenly there's cameras on you and you're really, really doing this.
Yeah.
So
do you have to do it in a different kind of accent?
Yeah, I do an American accent.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Is that hard to turn on and off?
No, I know it. My kids are American. My fiance's American. It's really easy for me to just speak with an American accent. I've never had a problem with it, and I've always found it kind of easy.
Get some hamburgers, pay on credit cards.
Look at you and your Aussie accent. I love hamburgers. You did so good, dude. Not many people can do an Aussie accent.
Can we fire through some fan questions?
Sure, let's do it.
I'd like to know more about her early dance career, growing up in Australia, and her Burn the Floor days. Is there anything that we didn't cover that really helped you get to your journey of where you are today in those early years, whether it was a certain competition or some kind of like win that really got you to the next step?
No, it's probably not a short answer, but the thing that really solidified dance for me was shared with you. I went to the World Championships when I was 15, all of that. I was a high-level competitor.
And you have your personal partner. Do you have a coach at that time too?
Yes, coaches, multiple, and my personal partner. And what happened at that World Championships, and it happened because be careful what you wish for, I was wishing to be a normal kid because 7 days a week I was training. I didn't get to go to sleepovers and birthday parties and, hang out at the mall like kids did. And I wanted to so badly because I think I always really wanted to fit in and have a friend group. And so dancing felt like it was taking me away from that. And be careful what you wish for. I was at the World Championships. I busted my knee, ACL reconstruction, a mandatory 6 months off the floor. That 6 months turned into 2 years off the floor. And within those 2 years, teenage Sharna did all the things. Like I spiraled. I got in with the wrong crowd. I did all the stuff. Like it was a lot, and it's a whole other story. And I realized just before my 18th birthday that if I didn't get out of this pattern, this was going to be my whole life. Like this was going to be my story. And I was so much more than that. And it was a beautiful moment of clarity that I needed dance. I needed to get back into dance. So I moved cities. I moved from Sydney to Melbourne, got a dance partner, and got back into dance. And dance genuinely saved my life. And that was where I understood that it wasn't just about getting through my hard times as a teenager, but dance was a part of who I am. Creativity and expression is a part of who I am as a human being. It's no longer what my parents want me to do because I'm good at it. It's no longer going to another competition because my coaches want me to. It's because I want and need it in my life. It's my therapy. It's my release. It's a part of my soul's purpose, telling stories and not just entertaining, but really expressing and telling stories. And I realized it then, maybe not to that depth of understanding at that point. I just knew that I needed dance. But as I processed that as an adult, it's absolutely because it was always meant to be my path and I'd fallen off that path. And so that's when it became mine. I no longer wished to sleep at friends' houses or do anything other than follow this dream. Right. Because the dream was then mine, not my parents.
Do you think that you had to put in all those years to get to where you are? Did you have to be that obsessed with it? Did you have to work as hard as you did?
Yeah. Like I'd love to say no, but it depends on what level of a success you want. If you want, doesn't matter if it's dance, whatever it is, if you want success in this one thing and you're trying to break past barriers or out of a place where you live or create something no one's ever done before, whatever that is, you have to be obsessed with it. You have to want to do it every single day. It has to be your dream, not someone else's. You have to be obsessed with it enough that when it doesn't work out, you go, I'm going to try it again. You have to have tunnel vision with that thing. Otherwise, you will fall off the track and you'll find something else that's easy. Success isn't easy. Success in anything. Like no highly successful person, whether it's business or the arts, got there because it just happened. They had 1 million no's. Maybe they went bankrupt 7 times. Wasn't that Richard Branson? Like all of it, something is going to get in your way every single step of the way until you pass all of those trials and you overcome those things that are going to make you better in the end. And that's why you have to go through it. So you have to be obsessed with it.
What kind of adversity was there? What were people saying to you to shun you out of what you wanted to do?
Well, I mean, the adversity, one of them was not knowing if I wanted it, right? And then my knee injury, then getting back into it. It was, I'd been off the floor for such a long time that those that I was competing against were now so much better than I was. And I had to work so hard to come back from it. I wasn't built with hyperextension legs and ankles that make a beautiful dancer, right? I had people pulling my knees backwards, trying to make my legs look straighter and all sorts of things to make my technique better. I wasn't necessarily the most naturally talented at the technique, but I knew that I had something and I loved it so much. And now I know, as an adult and looking at my career, technique was never necessarily my strong suit. It was always emotion and storytelling and connection with people and whatnot. But there was so many things up against. At some point it was weight. As a dancer and a girl in that industry, I was always too chubby, and that is an insecurity that you have to overcome. This feeling of always not being good enough, but having enough obsession in your head to go, but I'm gonna be.
If Zane wanted to follow your footsteps, what would you enroll? What kind of classes? What are the first steps that you would take?
Gosh, if Zane showed interest in it, and I'll put him in everything, all the sports and all the dance, and he can choose what he wants to do. If Zane showed interest in dance, I would just I would put him in all forms of dance and let him find what feels good to him. And I'm still playing with this balance as a parent of like, okay, my parents pushed me really hard and I wanted out and I tapped out for a while. But what is that balance of when a kid shows potential and talent in that one thing, but they're showing also that they just don't feel interested in it right now? So as a parent, do you push them through that and just say you're going to do it, or do you let them say no to it? I don't know. But with dance, I would put him in everything. I do believe to be a great dancer, you need to be well-rounded. You also need to know how to tumble and do gymnastics. If you want to be a working dancer in this industry, you've so got to be a hybrid and do everything. It's like the Utah kids. Riley, she can do everything. And it's amazing. I was not that kid. I was just ballroom dancing. Dance has changed now. So if you want to be a dancer, you got to be able to do all forms of dance. And as he's growing in that field, if this becomes his obsession, I would always remind him that dance has an expiry date. So plan what you're doing after. Are you going to choreograph? Are you going to creatively direct? Are you going to produce? Get to know people, talk to people, make friends with crew, learn the business. Understand how you can negotiate your own contracts so no one pulls the wool over your eyes. Like, so much more than dance, dude. Don't just be a dancer.
Sharna is my favorite female pro. They need to bring her back.
Ah, thank you. That's very sweet.
What is your we did that. If you would have to pick any of your former celebrity partners that were your favorite to dance with, who would you choose?
That's tough. Honestly, it'd be James. It'd probably be James Hinchcliffe, but there's also Nick Carter. I'd love to give him another shot at winning. If it's like, say we did an all-star season, right? I think my first pick would be James Hinchcliffe, because it was just the most enjoyable season that I'd had out of all of my seasons on the show. And again, he's family to me, and I would love an extension of that season with him.
What was the process for creating the choreography for the tango with James Hinchcliffe?
That was, see, here's the thing. Creating with James is one of the easiest things I'd ever done. I'd come in with ideas, we'd try things I'd literally created in the room. Some other celebrities I've needed to pretty much have it planned out because I don't get left with playtime, right? I need all those hours for just teaching. But James, there was so much playtime. So we'd try things out. I had Adam come in and help a little bit because he was like a Argentine tango guru. He'd show me a few things. He'd even help James with a couple of things as well. And we put it together. And James thought I was crazy, by the way, because I just came back from having my knee injury like the week or two before. And I was like, so I'm going to be blindfolded in our return dance. He's like, what do you mean? Because he would say every week, but I can't dance and I can't do that. And he'd start off terrible, by the way. But he was just so amazing to teach. He'd start off terrible. And then by the end of the week, he was awesome. And James was this crazy, like I say, everyone learns differently. He needed the physics of dance, because he's used to physics in a car, momentum and physics and numbers and math. Like, that's what he needed to learn. He needed to know the percent of weight in his back pinky toe in comparison to his front foot. It was all of those sorts of things, and understanding centrifugal force. Like, that was James. So that was really fun to teach him with, because no one else has ever been like that either. That's like the nitty gritty terms of dance that you don't get into with other people. But yeah, creating that tango was super fun. He thought I was crazy, and then it ended up being amazing. But we didn't get a perfect score on that. I think Carrie Ann gave us an 8 or a 9 because she said there was a stumble in it and there wasn't. And I remember being furious.
Yeah, how do you combat that when they say that there's something that really wasn't?
You smile and you take it on the chin and you go, got
Okay.
it. All right. You know, like it's just it's done. What's said is said. You can't change it. You can absolutely have feelings about it, and that is your right. But the best thing you can do is go, okay, because no one wins when you argue with the judges. 0 people win. You always look like a dick. Right? In standing there, you just have to go, okay, be humble and step away and work on what you need to work on. When you've bitten back in history, when people have bitten back at the judges, it has not gone well because someone's always going to tell you that you need to pipe down and listen to the people that are in charge or take on what they say. You're not going to win everyone over with anything that you say back other than it being a positive, thank you so much. You know what I mean?
When you would see people do that, is it like, oh, they're talking back?
Dude, I think Max had the biggest one I've ever seen on the show. Was it one show when he was like, I made this show or I am this show? Like, I think my jaw was on the floor when this happened.
Were you there?
Yes, I was there for it. I remember it. It was crazy.
Do you have a favorite Len Goodman moment?
A favorite Len Goodman?
Is there anything that comes to top of mind of all of your years with him?
Oh my God, he was such a character. So many come to mind. That's really hard to choose. I loved actually there's 2 Derek moments that one is beautiful and one's hilarious. One was I think it was the gymnast Nastia, and he did a dance and Len came out and started to dance with Nastia. Like there was a little beat where there was a camera transition and Len did a little waltz and it made me emotional, and I loved seeing that because not very often when the other judges would get involved with like numbers that we would do, you wouldn't see Len get up and dance. And so that was really beautiful and I'll always remember that. And then there was a moment where it was Derek. He did a paso doble, I want to say, and he, broke some rules as people do, as we all do on the show. And Len lost it at him, He was so furious at what Derek had created. And I think it was a trio dance. I feel like I'm seeing Tristan there in it as well. And he just lost it at Derek. And we're all up in the skybox like, oh my. You're like, because he just went, Len goes in, but he uncharacteristically went in on Derek. And no one, like the dance was great. It had some paso technique in it. Like it was really awesome dance with a great story. But Len, he was not having it that day. He lost his shit at Derek. And Derek took it like a champ, and he sort of like, he walked away and he's like, all right.
I think he made fun of it this couple weeks ago with the sound. Yeah, on TikTok.
Oh,
he,
I didn't know.
And he was doing it with like him and Mark Ballas, like doing the sounds back and forth.
Oh my God. See, there you go. It was a massive moment. Like Len lost his shit.
Yeah.
It was really big. And then he's like, Len would just say how he felt about stuff. It's hard to pick just single favorite moments because that was just him. And I think what is also so beautiful about Len is he wasn't that guy off camera. Len was a beautiful human that had an amazing sense of humor and he loved to laugh and be friendly, but he had his role on Dancing with the Stars. He was grumpy old Len and he was a stickler for technique and he liked dance the way he liked dance. And all these young kids were coming in, changing it up and doing all these other moves that weren't in the technique book. And I think that would, rile his feathers a little bit. But he was, no one else will be like him. He's deeply missed.
Yeah, because the show's kind of changed a little to where you have to find that creativity of involving your own style in a new way.
Yeah.
While incorporating the traditional rules.
Yes. It has, and I think it had to because dance evolves. And so with all respect to Len and deep love for him, dance has evolved since he was a dancer, and across the board, even in dance competitions, ballroom competitions, they're doing moves that aren't necessarily just ballroom mixed in with their rumba and cha-cha and paso doble. So yeah, naturally dance evolves on Dancing with the Stars as well. And being that we are a TV show, we absolutely want to make it entertaining. And so as a pro, that you take that risk, right? Are you going to kind of break out a frame in your quick step when you're not meant to? Or are you going to do only 2 8 counts in hold because you have this amazing story to tell? In understanding that the public vote is 50% of it, you take that risk.
Right.
But you might get hammered for it.
You might get hammered
you
for
might.
it. What is her favorite all-time dance she choreographed? Is that easy to pick?
Hard. There's a collection here. There is James Hinchcliffe's freestyle, which was me telling the story of the 5 minutes before when he was flatlining, or 3.5 minutes, I think it was, when he'd had his accident when he was racing. And so it was that journey of what happened in those 3.5 minutes, or 4 minutes, I think it might have even been. And I represented the light bringing him back, and like hope and strength, and the demons that he battled within it to fight to come back, and him making it all become a part of him for this new self. That was a story, whether anyone got it or not. Creating that was amazing. There was also Noah Galloway's freestyle and his most memorable year. His most memorable year, I had this idea. He was talking to me about phantom pain in his arm, and he told me about the exercise that they do where they sit a mirror on the other side so you can see like the arm is doubled, and you do exercises and it tricks the brain into thinking you're working that arm. And it gave me this idea for the start of this number, because he'd had such a journey of accepting himself with his injuries and his double amputation, of why don't I double the one side of you and do this camera trick where as everything spins, we see you with all 4 limbs as you were, and everything spins at the same time to see you looking in the mirror at who you are now. And creating that was just so beautiful. My perfectionist self, the camera moved at the wrong time in the live show, so it wasn't as seamless as it was in the dress rehearsal, but it doesn't matter because the story and the intention was there. And it was such a moment for Noah as well, because he was then, American Soldier was the song, and it was emotional, and it was about him doing all these things, and it was just really beautiful. That one will forever go down in history as a favorite dance of mine.
Do you think having less couples is better, or would you want a larger cast next season?
Oh, I don't know. Well, how many did we have this season? Was it 12?
13 or 12?
I think 12 is the sweet spot for me, to be honest. I feel like you start there, you get enough time for dances and packages. I wish the packages were a little bit longer. We used to have a lot more like
behind
meat.
the scenes.
Yeah, there was a lot more meat in our packages, I feel like. A lot more depth and story of discovering things organically. You know, I miss the moments of, one stands out to me completely. It was Derek with Bindi Irwin, and he was discovering this thing of like how a little girl hooks onto her daddy's pinky, or like holds onto her daddy's pinky, and watching him discover that in the room, and how that resonated with her when she held onto his finger, and then seeing that move in the actual dance. Like all of that as a viewer is delicious, right? Because you're getting the inside feelings of the movements, not just watching moves. And so I miss that a little bit. I think so the less couples gives you more time for story discovery and behind the scenes stuff.
If you were to come back next season, who would you want to be partnered with?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. I used to say Hugh Jackman was my dream partner, which is probably still true because he'd be amazing.
Is he fellow Aussie?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But I don't actually know. I've never really had a dream list of partners. I think if I came back for another season, I would love, and not that I can orchestrate this, right? But I would love a shot at winning it. And it doesn't mean that people aren't lined up with shots at winning it, but like, let's be real. Some people, when they come on, you're like, has a shot, doesn't have a shot, right? You can see that clearly. I would love someone where I have a real shot at winning it and taking home a win that everyone supports and feels like was right and just. And that I feel very proud of my win with Bobby. But another one that doesn't feel like every time I mention it, someone does a bit of an eye roll about it. You know, I would love that opportunity. So I don't know that it's a particular person or type, but if I come back, it would be the opportunity to, really have a win that everyone loves.
How did dyeing your hair change your career?
When it went red?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was a huge thing. Who could have guessed? I think it was during Noah Galloway's season, actually. The red just took on a place of its own. It ended up with its own hashtag. And it's a really unique red, right? It's a little faded and crazy now, but when it's fresh and when I'm on the show, it's this beautiful deep red that still has a lot of class to it. And people recognize me everywhere. I couldn't walk anywhere without being recognized. Airports are a really big one for being spotted. I guess it's just people coming in from so many places. And I suddenly became a fan favorite because you couldn't help but see me. Group numbers, I could be in the back and it's this beacon just shining in the background. Like, you can't not see me. And I think at the same time, it also represents me as a dancer personality on the dance floor. Like in life, I could be any color. Blonde also suits me. I'm a very gentle, nurturing person. But as a dancer, I have a lot of sass and a lot of sensuality. There is a whole other side of me that comes out, and I think the red hair totally captures that and emphasizes that. So it felt like I found another deeper part of my dance personality too when my hair became its own thing. It's very, very cool. I would say it actually changed my career.
That's so cool.
Crazy. A hair color.
Was there a lot of thought behind it for when you wanted to do it?
None. I'd had black hair for like 8 years, and then I went to this weird brown color, tried the ombre thing, which did not work very well on me. And it was naturally going a little bit red because stripping all that black out of my hair I'd have 3 hairs on my head if we tried to strip it to blonde. So it was like, well, why don't we try a red color? And it was sort of a reddish purpley color for a little beat there. And then we were like, shit, let's just go red. Let's just try it. And it worked. Who knew it was going to work?
So great.
Yeah, crazy.
This has been so cool getting to talk to you.
Thank you. It's been cool talking to you too.
Yes. Hopefully we get to see you next season.
Yeah, you might. Who knows?
Yeah, the movie you're going to be filming.
Yes, I'm filming the movie now. I'll let you know when it comes out. Since you're a horror fan, I will, make sure you know so you can check it out.
Please.
But yeah, I'm excited.
Where can everyone find your podcast?
You can find us, we're Oldish, so you can find us wherever you get your podcast. We're also on YouTube, the Oldish page that we have, and people have been loving being able to see it. And then you can find me anywhere on social media, just at SHARNA Burgess.
All your links will be linked down below. Go check out the podcast, go subscribe, and thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
This has been amazing. Lightweights.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was so great.